Hello and good evening. I am super excited to have you join me here today. We're going to be having an epic conversation with another badass motorcycle rider, and it's Amy McMommy, and we're going to pull her up. Super excited. She's a very, very dear friend of mine, and will be joining momentarily. Oh, hey, Amy!
I'm here.
You made it. This is
I'm
awesome.
pumped.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are really, really excited to have a chat to you, pick your brains, and just learn more about who you are and your life as a badass motorcycle rider. So thanks again so much. Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah,
You are
right.
all
I
of those
mean,
things.
I always say we have to use the term badass very loosely because we all know I am like the least badass of the badasses, right?
Okay, no, that is not correct. And everyone here is going to learn why you are the ultimate badass.
Okay.
No, seriously, we're going to talk about your life and how cool it is and all the awesome things you do.
Cool.
But yeah, I want to, for everyone watching this, I want to give a quick intro of Amy. So Amy is a dear friend of mine. We met riding with the leaders, Twin Cities, probably, I want to say like at least 2 years ago, probably 3. But Amy is a respiratory therapist, mum to 4 children, a really incredible human, super accomplished long distance rider, Indian motorcycle enthusiast, to say the least.
Say the least, yes.
The least. And you are actually really good at knitting as well, which is a fun fact. You have like wicked knitting skills.
True. That's true.
True. And more recently, you became a brand ambassador for Indian motorcycles as well. So congrats on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's quite the intro. So I was trying to think when we first met, and it was definitely at a leaders meetup. I can't remember exactly which one. Do you remember?
I want to say it was one of the fall. Was it the orchard ride in the fall?
I think it was, because that was probably like 2018 or 19. I feel like that might have been the first group ride I went to with the leaders.
Right. Yeah. Probably 2019, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I hadn't ridden with them much longer before that either. That was like maybe my third ride with them.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was all right.
Yeah.
And I don't remember who I met first, you or Jolene. And we'll talk about Jolene in a little bit. But you're just so consistent. You ride all the time, and you're always at these meetups. You're a super active member of the Twin Cities motorcycle community. So massive props to that.
Well, thanks.
And yeah, so I guess having said all that, do you want to just kind of jump in and tell us about yourself?
Well, you did a really great job with that intro. Yeah, so I've been riding motorcycles this will be my 4th season. So it's been like 3 years since I got my license. I'm pretty new as well. And I had 0 exposure to motorcycles growing up. I had never been a passenger until a year before I got my license. I went for a couple of quick rides with Doug on the back of his bike.
Okay, yeah.
And, the theory, I decided over the winter I was going to take the class, right? To be a better passenger. We thought that would maybe help me be a better passenger.
Yeah.
And then I thought about it and I was like so gung-ho about that class. Like I was mentally in. And so I convinced him to buy me a bike. He rode it home, I think Easter. I took my class in May. He rode my bike home in April. A Honda Shadow. Her name was Lady. He rode her home and he taught me to, like turn her on. I didn't know how to turn a bike on. Kind of taught me the finer points out in the cul-de-sac. I went around in circles for a long, long time before I went to class. Yeah, and then I took my class, the motorcycle safety class, and it was like horrible. It was, well, first of all, it was sleeting. It was like cold, wet, rainy, few snowflakes the whole weekend. Miserable. And then I totally got in my head and I almost failed the class, right? And the instructor was like, you should probably just go put some miles on. And I was like, okay. And so I did. Like, I went home and I got on Lady and I just rode. I started riding. I rode to work. I rode to the grocery store. I rode everywhere. So, yeah, that's how I got started, I guess. So Lady, my Honda Shadow, lasted me 2 months. After 2 months, Doug was kind of like, "Ooh, I think you need a bigger bike. Like, if we're going to go on trips together, you probably need a bigger bike." So we bought a bigger a Yamaha Royal Star, and her name was Maggie. And I rode Maggie the rest of that season. And then over the winter, I needed an Indian. You know what I mean? Like, I decided I was buying an Indian. So that's when Jolene entered the picture in March. So
okay. Yeah, so I love that so much. I'm just going to try and pick out a couple pieces and
yeah.
deeper. So that's so interesting that you took the motorcycle safety course as, like, without the intention of becoming a rider. You were just going to be a better passenger.
Yeah. But it turns out I have control issues. And I'm a horrible passenger. It hasn't gotten any better. And so, nope.
Yeah.
That's a no.
Yeah. You just needed to be in the front. I totally relate to that.
Yeah.
I was similar to how I started. I was a passenger as well. And then as soon as I became a passenger, I was like, nah, this is amazing. How do I
right?
Sign me up. Like, loved being in the wind. So yeah, that was super fun. And then you said that once you got your first bike, you like did multiple upgrades straight away. So can you talk us through that decision on how you knew, like, when you were ready to upgrade and what were you looking for in those upgrades?
So in hindsight,
usually for those watching, that upgrade can take like at least a year usually. I think I had my dual sport for a year before I upgraded to my touring bike, but other new riders, it can take a couple years minimum. So I think that's freaking badass that you were like, nah, let's go all in.
You know, I mean, first of all, I had Doug completely on board. Like, he has been so supportive the whole time. And it was kind of his idea. He's like, ooh, you know, for like these longer trips. I mean, I'm a big girl. And the Shadow, just, you know, for like longer highway trips and stuff, it was just kind of smaller. And then, like, I had incidents. Like, my Honda Shadow, I bought new bags for it, right?
Okay.
Saddle bags. And I got to work one morning and one had slipped onto my exhaust and, like, burnt a hole in it and burnt a hole in my backpack. And then when I was fixing that, I, like, ripped a bolt out of the rear, you know, just like little things like that. And I was like, ooh, I think I want something with, you know, like, hard bags, right? That was like my first criteria. I wanted like a bagger. Okay. Yeah. I know there wasn't really any huge reason I needed to upgrade. Okay. But I wanted to.
You wanted to.
Right? I wanted to. And so I got this Yamaha Royal Star, which is a beautiful bike, right? It kind of has the classic styling, you know, great bike. And moving from the Honda Shadow to that, it was like riding a Cadillac. Like, it was so, like, the bigger bike is just like, that's where it's at for me. I like a big, solid bike, right? Yeah. And I really loved that bike. It was a great ride. But it had a 4-cylinder engine in it, okay? And it sounded like a sewing machine. It was just kind of like... You know, it just did its thing, right? It was a sewing machine. And so what happened, the end of the season that year, it was middle of September, my first year riding, right? All I wanted was a Scout. I wanted an Indian Scout from the moment I ever saw a bike. That's what I wanted. Wow. And earlier in the season, I had test ridden one, and I didn't like it. I did not fit well on it. I was super, like, intimidated. It wasn't a good fit for me. It was just, like, not right. So September rolls around. I went to an Indian demo day at the dealership down the road from us. It was like 50 degrees out. It was cold. It was raining. Kind of like the time that we went, you know, you and I and the rest of the leaders. Yeah. Except nobody else was there. Right? It was cold. And it was me and another guy. And he he just let me ride all these bikes. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can handle a bike this big, first of all.
Yeah, absolutely.
And second of all, like the way they sounded, they were just like, broop, 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 broop. And I'm like, oh gosh, that's it. Right? You know, so
Yeah. Yeah,
that's what happened.
Like, I totally know when you hear the big bikes, like the Indians especially, like your heart skips a beat a little bit. You're just like, oh yeah, that feels good.
Right? Exactly.
And I was watching your YouTube channel last night, and you mentioned that your old bike sounded like a sewing machine, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's hilarious for starters.
I
But
know.
like, what does my bike sound? So now I'm like trying to think of like the best sound that my engine sound like, but that's a good comparison there. And it totally puts it in perspective, because some bikes aren't for everyone, and it does take more than one upgrade or more than one try or ride on a demo bike to get a feel for what is good for your body, what you prefer, and kind of what features really fit your lifestyle as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think that upgrading to Jolene, my first season with her, like she fits perfectly, right? She's like my dream bike. My first season, I could have probably not had her. I could have maybe stuck with that Royal Star, because it's a lot of bike. It is, you know, it's a lot of bike, and I was kind of intimidated, but you know, I put the miles in. Yeah. And so this past season, I think, is the first season that I was like, really, I felt very comfortable. You know what I mean? Like dialed in, super comfortable. So
yeah, for sure. And when I think about your story and look back, and like, I can't believe that you've only been riding, you said 3 years, just over. Yeah. Because you put on tens and tens of thousands of miles on this big, beautiful bike. And like, I get chills just thinking about it, because like, it's so inspiring to me, because those miles, like in a year that you've done, is something that I can only dream of. Well, maybe I'll achieve it one day, but I'm just not at that level. And I think it's so cool, and I just love that. So why don't you tell us, who is Jolene? What does she look like?
Oh, okay.
Why do you love her so much?
So Jolene is my 2019 Indian Springfield Dark Horse. And oh man, I say, like, she is my spirit animal. She is just a beautiful blacked out bike. She's got, you know, these big, beautiful curved saddlebags and solo seats, so I don't have to take anyone with me. Gosh, she's just a pretty bike, really. So
yeah, so Jolene, I think, is like your soul spirit animal, whatever you want to
right.
Because like, you are like, Jolene is like you in a motorcycle. And
exactly. Yeah.
Jolene is so beautiful. And what I really love that you didn't mention, Amy, is like, you have this gorgeous black leather like windshield bag.
Oh yes, gosh, my glove box.
Oh my gosh. And you have a beautiful silver button on it that says Jolene, and that just makes my heart so happy.
I forget about that. Yeah, Etsy. Etsy's where it's at, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you can find everything on Etsy. Some lady made it for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so great. And then why don't you tell us like some adventures that you've been on with Jolene? Because looking back, and I remember when you posted this, you did 10,000 miles in your first season with her, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So our first, you know, first I have to say, most of my miles, like my commute is like 90 miles round trip. So I ride my bike to work every day that's decent, right? Like, and some days that aren't, but that's an accident.
Yeah.
So a lot of my miles are back and forth to work, but also I ride I'm bored and I get on and I go for a ride, right? I think, oh, let me go to Costco, and I ride my bike to Costco. I ride to the yarn store. I'll ride for, like, nothing is too far if you have a bike, right? But our first season, Doug and I took a trip. We went out west our first season.
Yeah.
And we went to, oh my gosh, Medora, North Dakota. So we started out across North Dakota, went to Medora, Theodore Roosevelt National Park,
Nice.
things like that.
Yeah.
Then we headed down to the Black Hills,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the Badlands, Sturgis, all those great rides. We went to Devil's Tower, and then we tackled Beartooth Pass. We ended up in Yellowstone. We toured Yellowstone on our bikes, right? Like, this is amazing. Grand Teton National Park, and then, you know, eventually made our way home. Unfortunately, we hit the Black Hills. We hit Spearfish Canyon again on our way home because it was such a great ride.
Yeah.
And Doug's dad actually met us out in like the Sturgis area and rode like Spearfish Canyon with us, and then kind of tagged along on our way home. So that was my first year, you know, my first 10,000 mile year. You know, and that was the first year I rode with Alitas, so a couple scoots with them. We went down to Iowa and Nebraska as like a practice trip. Just really put the miles on. And then this past year, same thing, rode to work a lot. And then Doug and I went out east this year, or this past year. So we rode we did Skyline Drive in Shenandoah National Park. We rode the entire Blue Ridge Parkway. Oh my gosh, Tail of the Dragon. We went to Dollywood. Right? Not on the bike, so we took an Uber to Dollywood. So I kind of regret that Jolene didn't get to go see Dolly. Yeah, so we just, like, that's our vacation. And I think that kind of tees in with, like, the whole pandemic. Like, we've had a pandemic for 2 years, but we've still been able to go on a vacation because it's outside. Yeah. So, you know, mostly outdoors, and it's the two of us, and yeah. So.
Yeah. That's a great point. And I remember when the pandemic started and, you know, there were different rules and stuff about where you can go and who you can be around. But riding motorcycles for a lot of people is like a solo thing. At least, like, it's only you and your helmet. So you have like that social distance aspect of it. So I know a lot of women in the leaders were that was like a lot of good mental clarity time to sort of escape and just forget about life for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
And I love all your trips. Oh my gosh. Like, I've done the Smokies. I've backpacked the Smokies.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And driven through there in a rental car. But I swear, like, all these trips I have to go back and do on my motorcycle because
it's amazing.
Be a million times better.
Yeah. I have to notice Doug commented, "Hi, was it curvy?" Yes, it was very curvy. Doug would be like, "Oh, good, another parkway." Or he's like, "I'm getting seasick." Very curvy. Yeah.
Well, to be real, because Doug has an Indian Roadmaster, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So to be real, like, doing really tight switchbacks on something like that can be challenging. Yeah.
It gets tiring. It really, you know.
Yeah, it's a super big challenge. And I remember I went to Sturgis as a passenger before I became a rider. And my husband has a Roadmaster. And I think he was like, he admitted after the trip that it was kind of challenging for him to do that with me on the back. I
can't imagine.
Yeah, but I'm sure, like, Doug has an amazing, it's like the maroon and the cream, right?
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. People always stop us. Like, that's the thing about when we're traveling together. We always get stopped to talk about our bikes. Like, so it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, you two are like not only couple goals, like relationship goals, but also like Indian motorcycle goals.
Yeah, right.
So I want to talk about, you mentioned that you commute a lot to work, and with a 90-mile commute return every day, those miles clock up incredibly fast. And I know you're a spiritual therapist. So what was that like riding for you during the pandemic as a healthcare worker, and how did that affect your experience during that time?
So, I mean, I totally credit that with saving my sanity, right? Like, one of my patients once told me, I was seeing a patient and we were talking. I mean, first of all, it gives me something to talk about, right? I can talk about bikes with pretty much everyone.
Oh, yeah.
But one of my patients was like, you know, if you ride your bike to work, you're guaranteed you're going to have at least one good ride, right? Like, it might not be great in the morning or it might not be great at night, but like, you're guaranteed you're going to have at least one great ride. And honestly, most days I have two great rides. It gives me something, like, first in the morning, it like gives me that go time, right? Like, it gives me like, it takes me about 50 minutes to get to work. So that's 50 minutes with myself, just like getting pumped for the day, you know, like there's nothing like riding like right as dawn is breaking and you're out by yourself. And I mean, and I honestly, I have a great commute. Like, my route is beautiful. It's really scenic. It's beautiful. I'm out there by myself, and it really is a great way to get that mental focus for the day, right? And then you work all day, and maybe it sucks because it was a pandemic, and it did suck. But at the end of the day, you get to take your scrubs off and ride your bike home. Like, there was never a day where I'm like, oh, I wish I had my car. I mean, hands down. When Jolene's waiting in the parking lot, you know, it's a good ride home. So I really credit like riding with saving my mental clarity. So yeah.
And it kind of makes it's like you look forward to the commute in a way. I don't know if that's similar to you.
Absolutely.
When I would do that, I'd be like, oh, I'm stoked to ride to work, not to like get to work, but to like the experience of arriving really changes like the daily kind of grind of like life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's it exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I don't really have a commute much these days, but you're making it.
I mean, it gets me out, right?
Yeah, and I think for people who ride motorcycles, that's like a really cool way to build in, and it doesn't even take a ton of extra time, but like it just really elevates your life to a level that like I didn't have personally before I rode, and it kind of brings in like that element of community and excitement and joy and just like that mental space that we don't always get on a really hectic life. So I wish more people knew that it can be so amazing. Yeah,
awesome.
So what would you say, you've been riding for a couple of years now, what are some ways that your life has changed since you've started riding motorcycles?
Oh my gosh, like really, it's kind of crazy how much it's changed, because I like have a hobby now, right? Like I have a hobby, like I have a passion hobby. I don't have just like I have something now that I am like all in, you know, not like, ooh, I like to read sometimes. Like, I have a motorcycle, her name is Jolene, and that's you know, that is my hobby. But it's like so much more than that. One of the, I mean, I think you probably know this too, like when you're an adult and adulting is hard and weird, and like adult friendships are hard and weird, and like the best part of this whole motorcycle thing has seriously been meeting seriously the Litas, like meeting you, meeting Jed, meeting Haley, like everybody. It's like a whole new friendship group, and it's amazing. Like, I have never met such a great group of women. Really, like, how lucky are we that we all have found each other? Because I think it is like a super supportive, just like such a great group. So that's huge. Like, to me, that is huge. But beyond that, like, I mean, I look back and I'm like, well, I've accomplished this, right? Like, how many things are you like, oh yeah, I did that. I crossed Beartooth Pass on my bike. I parked in a parking lot. Like, every little step is like such a sense of accomplishment. I mean, it's just a huge boost to my self-esteem. It's amazing. So yeah, I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah, the riding community is incredibly supportive, and for the group that we're in, the Leaders Twin Cities, I'm getting chills just thinking about it and listening to it.
I know, right?
It just makes me so freaking happy. But no, I totally agree with everything that you said about the community you get, and it is super hard making friends as an adult. like as a transplant from different states, different cities, I really struggled to kind of find my footing and my network in the Twin Cities. And it really wasn't until I got with the leaders that I was like, oh, these chicks, like, they get it, you know, not in the sense of that, like, I was different, but in the sense of we were interested in the same thing. And you don't necessarily, as a writer, need to have the exactly same background as someone else to connect if you have that shared passion. Right. And I find that too with the writing community is like a lot of us don't, you know, I don't know if we would cross paths normally in life or, but it doesn't matter because we're here, we write, and that's like the common ground. Mm-hmm. But the Leaders is a great community to be a part of, to kind of hook into for those watching. But there are a ton of female writing groups out there. The Iron Lilies is another one. But really, if anyone is watching and wants to start to plug into those groups and really find an incredible community of women, just go online, Instagram, Facebook, you'll find a ton of them, and they'll all be local to your area as well. And what was the second part? I had something else to say about that too. Adulting, I forget. I just feel like, Amy, you could spend days talking about motorcycles.
Oh, I know, right?
You're so nice about it.
Not like even like specifics. Like I don't really talk about like the engine size or how big my tires are, right? Like I could just talk about bikes and adventures and people, really. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's like you said earlier, it's more than just the motorcycle. And like, I feel the same, that it's not like the specs of my engine or like my gas range or like what my PSI is on my tires, but it's like, how does it make you feel? Who are you meeting? Where are you going? And like, how has your life changed? And yeah, that's just like a huge aspect, greater than like the sum of the parts.
Exactly.
But I think you said that it helps you kind of set goals and stuff. So you've done so many miles so far. And I see that too. And I think about this a lot, that like riding motorcycles kind of just unlocks the door to what we're capable of. And I think it's like a really good starting point into goal setting and like just seeing, building that self-confidence and that accomplishment that, like you said, you did Beartooth Pass, and then you go, well, okay, what's next? Let's ride the Dragon's Tail. Why not? You know, like,
why not, right?
Yeah.
Although I will admit, we kind of just rode Tail of the Dragon because it was like between our hotel and where we were going, and all of a sudden, like, there we were. But whatever. I was far more concerned about crossing the Mackinac Bridge than I was like riding Tail of the Dragon.
Oh no way.
I had a lot of like mental issues. There was a mental block there.
Is that bridge like a see-through bridge?
There's parts of it, yeah.
So it's like graded?
Like one side of it is graded at the bottom, so you can like look down and see the water, apparently, but I did not do that. No, okay. I stayed safely in the lane with pavement, looked straight ahead. Yeah.
So you did you did Tail of the Dragon by accident. You were just like, I guess we'll do it. We're here.
Right. And I think we knew it was there, right? But I think we started it from like the ending. We started at the wrong spot. So then all of a sudden we're like, oh, we're done now. Mm-hmm. But also, you know, we'd been riding the Blue Ridge Parkway at that point for like 5 days. So it was kind of like anticlimactic. Like, really, it was like, oh, more curves. I don't know.
I love that.
Yeah.
So epic, so epic. So on that note, you just became an Indian motorcycle brand ambassador, which I'm so happy for you. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what that involves and how you're going to be working with Indian motorcycles in the future?
Yeah, so I'm super excited. Like, seriously, this, like when she called me and was like, hey, we'd like you to be an ambassador this year, I was like, shut up. Are you kidding me? Like, how is this my life? Seriously. Yeah. And so, you know, last year they started with 10 ambassadors last year. It was the first year of the program, 8 of whom are coming back this year.
Okay.
And then I believe there's like 16 or 18 of us this year joining the group. And we are spread all over the United States, and there's 2 in Canada. So we're spread all over, and we're just like they chose us like basically on our passion for the brand, really.
Yeah.
Our passion for our motorcycles and how we express that. And so as an ambassador, like that's basically what I do, is just keep sharing my passion for Indian motorcycles online, in person. Just kind of, I have an official title now. Otherwise, it's like my normal life, basically. Yeah, but I got a new coffee mug.
Oh, nice.
I got some other stuff too, but you know.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Indian merch. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Well, honestly, like I think you are like a pinup for Indian, so it's like such a good fit from my perspective. Not that matters, but I just think it's really cool.
I appreciate that. I know, like some people are like, oh, weren't you already an ambassador? And I'm like, well, no, not officially. Just, you know, I love the bikes. So
yeah. But now it's legit.
Yeah.
And what does it mean to be a brand ambassador? So they obviously, you stood out to them for being like a badass, super into Indian, and like a really good role model and representative of the brand. So what do you do for them? Like, are you going to be hanging out with their events and social?
So like I get to go to some events, and you know, really I just keep riding my ride, keep spreading the word, really. So like speaking of events, there's actually another Minnesota rider who is an ambassador this year.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I know, right? He's just south of the cities. And Riding Fish is his Instagram. We are planning a ride. We're going to go to the 3 dealerships in the area. April 23rd, I think it is. So
Sweet.
I will totally get the word out. We're going to start at my dealership out in Watkins, ride to Lakeville, and then ride to St. Paul.
Oh,
and
wow.
Sounds like St. Paul's going to have like food trucks and fun stuff like that when we get there. So, I mean, that's just it. Just rides, leading rides, you know, International Female Ride Day. I'm totally going to lead a ride for that. You know, keep up like the social media, stuff like that. Yeah. And go to some events. So I'm super excited. Like we're already kind of like planning, what's the summer going to look like? Where can I go? You know, like what are we going to do? So I'm really kind of hoping to go to Sturgis this year. So.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Right? Like to the Sturgis rally. I've never been there. So.
Oh my gosh. You're going to love it.
Yeah. Oh, like King of the Baggers race. Like they're racing in Brainerd. So like we get to go to Brainerd and like see the King of the Baggers race. Like how cool is that?
Wow.
Yeah. Very awesome.
Whoa. Your like motorcycle life is just going to get like so much bigger and cooler and juicier.
No. I'm like, my obsession has gotten even more obsessed. It's, yeah, it's pretty awesome.
I'm excited. Like, I'm totally going to hang out with you on that Indian ride day.
Yeah. So like we were talking, like if the weather's horrible, we're not like ride or die on this, right? We're like, if the weather's horrible, we'll just drive our cars, right? Like we'll take our cars.
Yeah. It was kind of cold last time, but for people watching, I feel like it was like this time it was like April last year that we did the demo days in Lakeville, I think, at the Indian dealership. And I was super nervous because I'd always wanted to ride one of the heavyweight bikes. And we have a Roadmaster in the garage, but I'm technically not supposed to ride it because it's my husband's like work vehicle. He works for Polaris Industries, which is devastating because I always wanted to ride it, but I got to ride the Roadmaster on that day. And
you looked awesome doing it.
Thank you, man. I'm like saving every penny for that thing. So cool. Sounded amazing. It looked beautiful, and it rode incredibly smooth for how big it was.
Right? They're amazing. Yeah.
So no, I'm definitely, that's in my future.
Right. And so I kind of like, I go both ways. I kind of want a smaller bike,
Mm-hmm.
like not instead of Jolene. In addition
In
to
addition,
Jolene,
yeah.
I would like a smaller bike, right? So I would really love an Indian Chief, I think, if I went with a smaller bike. But the other night I was looking at Challengers. Like I was building myself a Challenger on the Indian website, and I was like, oh, well, how badass would this be? So I don't know. I know, like the bigger bikes, I just like them. I like them a lot.
Why not? Go all in. Get a Challenger. They're beautiful
right?
too.
Yeah, they are. They really are. It's all about what I can fit in the saddlebags, you know?
Dude, I'm with you on that. And now you grocery shop with your motorcycle, right?
I do. I was just thinking about, you know, when I've been pulling together all this pictures and stuff, I have this video and picture of this one day I randomly went to Costco, right?
Yeah.
And I was on my bike and I brought home like a watermelon and paper towels, right? I need to find that because that is like the most epic Jolene experience ever. Like I had a loaf of bread in my windshield bag and yeah, it was crazy what I fit in my bike, and it's happened more than once. So yeah, or like a lot of people may know, like Kathy. I know Kathy's watching.
Yeah.
When we rode to her cabin last summer, like I had muffins and monkey bread, and I mean, if I can strap it on the back, it's strapped on. So I'll carry anything on my bike. Yeah.
Yeah, nothing's stopping you, that's for sure. I love that. Just, you know, just make motorcycling an everyday thing. Doesn't matter what you need to do or what errands. Like, you just ride and get the miles in, and it makes running errands ultra fun.
Absolutely, for sure.
So speaking of motorcycles, I know your husband Doug, partner Doug, is a really big Indian rider as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of your rides are long distance and together. So what is it like to ride with him on those big bikes?
You know, it's super fun. Seriously, like I don't know. I can't even explain it. It's so great to have a partner who is always like, okay, let's go, right? Always up for the adventure. And it's fun and it's tiring and it's exhausting. And, you know, at the end of the day, when you've ridden like 500 miles through the middle of Michigan and it's like 100 degrees and you're miserable, I mean, at least at the end of the day, you still like each other, right? Like, we're still together, I think. So, no, it's awesome. Like, he's always inspiring me. He's always so supportive. You know, I would never be like, oh, let me go buy this bike unless he was like, oh yeah, you can totally handle it. Sometimes we get in arguments. Sometimes I don't understand what his hand signals mean. Sometimes he thinks I ride too slow. But you know, it's all good. We work it out. So I'm kind of finally this past year, I've gotten a little better about being the leader. Okay. Oh yeah, Doug says, and raining. We always get stuck in a you know, horrible storm every big ride at least once. So yeah, see, in the end of the day, we're still together. Yeah, I'm finally comfortable enough now that I can lead him places. That's a big deal. Yeah, it's just great. It's really, I mean, you went riding on your honeymoon. You get it, right?
Like, oh no, for sure. Yeah,
it's just something we do together.
Yeah, it's yeah, that what you're saying definitely resonates with me. I think it's like been a really cool thing to share for my husband and I. So he started riding first. He works for Polaris Industries, who owns Indian motorcycles, and he kind of had to get his license for work, obviously, and then that's sort of how we kind of got pulled into this world, this new life. And I never thought that I would be a rider. I found riding 4 years ago, and didn't grow up riding, don't have any friends that ride until kind of this started to be a thing for us. And he was my biggest supporter and still is for riding and for what I do now. And I love having that shared hobby, and it has definitely like deepened the relationship a lot. And I totally hear you on long distance rides. Like, it's just you kind of, the relationship extends to the road, but also like we have like a different vibe when we ride. So he'll typically take the lead on the left. And it's funny because now that I've become a motorcycle coach this past year, like I'll notice things that he doesn't do, or that like he does that he shouldn't do. So I'll say things like occasionally be like, hey, like maybe you should do a head check, or like indicate longer, and you know, whatever
Right.
it is. But it's incredibly fun, and the long distance rides are amazing, and it is exhausting. And I think it's kind of cool that you can have that relationship where you like do get beat up by just riding on the road, and having that like intense experience, but also at the end of the day you're still cool, and also sharing that experience too. Like I don't know about you and Doug, but like if we've had like a really long ride and something cool happened, we'll stop for gas and be like, oh my gosh, did you see the bald eagle? Like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
what about this? And
so our trip out west, we had comms. We had, when we went out west, we had like the Cardo Pack Talk, right? And so the whole trip is just like us going, oh my God, oh my gosh, did you see that? Did you see that? When we went out east, we did not have comms. I changed my helmet. We didn't have comms. And so like we both had comms, but they didn't talk to each other. So like if we really wanted to like talk to each other, we'd have to call each other on the phone and talk in the helmet, right? So that was different.
Okay.
Right? That kind of saves it up till the end of the day rather than be like, yeah, it's awesome. It's
so
great.
you have comms in that helmet. So for anyone watching that doesn't know, that's like a little speaker. I don't know. It's like, you talk about it, Amy, because I don't have one of those.
Oh yeah, it's like a speaker. I don't know, connects to my phone. I've got like the little microphone and the little speaker. I can like take calls, listen to music, stuff like that. And so like if we had the same brand, Doug and I could just talk to each other. We don't have the same brand, and we have not successfully paired our brands yet, so we can't. But we can call.
You can call.
Yeah, sometimes if I'm like really good, I can like send a voice text, Yeah. So I usually don't listen to music. I usually just listen to whatever's going on. But every once in a while, it's kind of nice to put something on, I don't know, entertain myself a little bit.
Breaks up the white noise a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Jolene doesn't have a radio, so.
Yeah. Well, Amy, you are getting so much love in the chat here. Like, oh my gosh, congrats on being an Indian ambassador. Can't wait to meet you and talk about Indian. Hello from Brazil. Oh, and we're also getting tips about riding. So Danae says the Cardo Pack Bold changed my life. I no longer listen to my friends. That's amazing. I'm going to have to get some of this comms. And then we got another recommendation here about the Challenger. I'm just scrolling. So you can add a tour pack and lowers for a Challenger.
Yeah.
Have the same amount of space as a Roadmaster. That's fun.
Yeah, right?
Oh my gosh.
Tempting.
Dude, the more space, the better, in my opinion.
I know. I pack heavy, obviously. So.
And Rocky says that they have centers, so they love
That's what I have in mine, yeah.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah. So last year I upgraded helmets. I saw you just got a new helmet. I bought a new helmet again last year. That's kind of a contention spot. They seem to find their way to my house a lot. I love helmets a lot.
Yeah.
Last year I bought a new Soooo helmet, and it has the Senna that you can buy, and it fits right in. Like it's wired and snaps right in. It's awesome. I know you can't teach me to pack light. I'm a pack heavy for life girl. So I got better. I was better this year. A little bit.
So you don't have a trunk on your Springfield, or you do?
I don't. I have a luggage rack, and I have this really great weekender bag that I just toss on the back and pack in. Yeah. I mean, last year I had to throw away a pair of shoes. I ran out of room to bring shoes home, but I like accumulate things on my travels. So okay.
And there is definitely an art to packing a motorcycle, for sure.
Yeah.
It's like backpacking. You got to figure out the weight distribution. You kind of got to put the heavy stuff down the bottom. make sure like nothing important is going to be like near the exhaust because you don't want that like nasty heat
Right.
on stuff.
And then snacks. I need a lot of snacks.
Yeah.
You know, easily accessible snacks.
Yeah, the snacks go on the top for sure. Like maybe on an external like little mini pocket.
Yeah. No, I have one. I
What's
have this really great bag. So seriously, I decked out, you know, Jolene is decked out. I bought this bag from Indian that fits on my rear crash bar, and it's like the perfect little snack bag, and it has a water bottle holder. So,
Oh, cool.
Shazam, right?
I might need a picture of that or a link or something.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's all about the snacks. Doug says pickles. I mean, we pick up pickles. We carried a jar of pickles last year from basically Washington, D.C. all the way home.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. Yeah. Random.
Love that. So, okay, we've talked about bikes, we've talked about other stuff. Did you ever, so like since you found riding later in life, did you ever think that your life would kind of follow this path, or like that you would be where you are now as a brand ambassador for Indian?
Oh my gosh, never. Like, this is beyond my wildest dreams, right?
Mm-hmm.
First of all, riding a motorcycle has never been it's never been a goal for me. It's never been like, oh, someday I'm gonna ride a bike. It was more like, oh, I'll try that, right? And then it just clicked.
Mm-hmm.
So no, this is like beyond anything I could imagine.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, very cool.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's you've come so far in just like a couple years, and for everyone watching, like I think that's really important to highlight, because when you really do like express yourself in a new way or kind of find a hobby that you love, things just can kind of pick up really quickly. You get in with a community that's really supportive, and these opportunities come to you like they have for you, Amy. And it's such a testament to who you are, your personality, and just like your zest for life. And I just think, sorry, I don't know what my point is there other than just like, I love you so much.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice.
But yeah, no, I think that's really cool. And I definitely didn't think that my life would come this way either. And it's just something different about riding. I think once you start to pick it up and get into it, it kind of like, for me, like just unlocked this whole other side of me that I didn't know existed, that I didn't even know was possible. And I think more women should just kind of maybe realize that it's not so much about the motorcycles as it is about who you become in the process.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I always say, honestly, is riding with the group my favorite thing? Mm-hmm. Not really. You know, mm-hmm. I like to ride by myself or with Doug.
Yeah.
But the group, like, is the being with the group, like, worth it? Absolutely. Like, that's my goal. I want to be with the group. Mm-hmm. You know, I want to spend time with the group. And so that's what unites us. So I'll totally ride with the group.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know?
And it's a unique sport in the fact that, like, it's solo, but it's also like if you choose to ride in a group, you're still kind of doing it solo. Because you're in your own world, you're in your own helmet, but also as part of the collective. And then whether or not you choose to just ride solo, like run by yourself, you're still part of that collective community. And it's just so supportive, and it doesn't matter who you are in the riding community. Like, everyone has your back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's just so amazing. And on that note, Amy, what advice would you like to share with women who would want to follow your steps and maybe start riding motorcycles, or kind of start going into like what you said, leading rides, being a brand ambassador? Like, what would be a couple things that you think you'd like to highlight?
Well, number one, I mean, go for it. First of all, take the class, right? Either find yourself a super patient instructor. I had a very patient instructor, but also take the class. And after that, practice, ride, put the miles on. And, you know, don't be afraid to fail, because this is what people have said. Everybody drops their bike, right? Like, it's going to happen. You're going to drop your bike. Where did I drop my bike? I dropped my bike in front of like all the people from Polaris, right?
Oh,
yes, that's the first time I dropped my bike.
Because you took your class with them, right?
So I took an intermediate riding class, and it just happened to be with like a bunch of people from Polaris.
Yeah.
And they were all riding the school's little bikes, and I'm out there on Jolene, and I did a stop and I dropped my bike. Like, how mortifying is that? But it happens, right? And it happens to everybody. So like, not being afraid to fail is a huge deal, right? Like, that's pretty awesome. And as far as being an ambassador, I don't know how I got here still, so I don't know. But even leading rides, man, that is nerve-wracking. And that's another thing that like, it takes time to like build the confidence. And once you like build that confidence, man, that's you're like, these people are willing to follow me. Like, that's a huge vote of confidence. So my advice for leading rides is be prepared, you know, ride your route first. I am like kind of notorious for not riding my route first. Anyone who's been with me knows sometimes we end up places we shouldn't end up. Gravel, churches, lost, you know, but you know, we find our way eventually.
It's about the journey anyway. It's all
right, exactly. And there's always ice cream at the end. So what more do you want, right?
Dude, those are the best rides.
Yeah, right? I know.
We've got a comment about dropping motorcycles. Yeah, I agree, Amy. That is like fear number one, I think, of any motorcyclist, whether you're new or not, is dropping your bike. And everyone does it. And I feel like it's almost like once you do it, you're like, oh, I've done it. The pressure's off. But I promise you, like, all those folks at Polaris, they were probably just as anxious about doing it too.
Well, I assume they probably have forgotten about it by now.
Yeah.
I hope.
You're good. You're good. Okay, Amy, this has been fun. I cannot believe we've been chatting for close to an hour. It feels like it's been 10 minutes.
Yeah, I know.
Where can everyone find you and follow your story and just embrace all of your love for Indian?
So my Instagram is my primary social media. You know, we were talking about this in a meeting the other day or whatever, and I was like, boy, if I would have known this was coming, I would have chosen a different handle, right? But nope, it's Amy_McMommy. That's my Instagram. And we're just, as you mentioned, starting a YouTube channel with some of our older adventures. Heck on Two Wheels is my YouTube. So Heck on Two Wheels, Amy_McMommy. You'll find lots of bike stuff, lots of knitting, pictures of my kids, fun stuff like that.
That's awesome, Amy. So everyone who is watching or listening to this later, make sure you follow Amy. She's going to be doing some incredible stuff. I know I am definitely joining the Indian Demo Days ride in April. But super excited, Amy, and really proud of you, and just can't wait to see all the amazing stuff that you accomplish in the future. It's going to be incredible.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. This was really fun.
Yay. I'm glad you liked it. All right. Yeah. Thanks again. Good night.
Yeah, thank you.